Electoral reforms in Nigeria has been an ongoing process with the aim of strengthening the country's democratic institutions and also ensuring the conduct of free, fair, and credible elections. For instance, the Electoral Act of 2022 introduced significant reforms, including the use of technology to improve the electoral process and the expansion of the powers of INEC to review declarations and returns made under duress or contrary to the law. Electronic transmission of results, for instance. The Electoral Act of 2022 introduced the electronic transmission of results aimed at reducing the risk of manipulation and improving transparency of the process. Now, joining me, of course, on the program this evening is Honorable Ben Etanabene, as a member representing Okpe, Sapele, and Uvwie Federal Constituency, House of Representatives. He joins me virtually. Thank you for your time, sir. What do you make of the current state of Nigeria's electoral process, particularly since the recent or the last reform?
Thank you very much, and once again, thanks to Nigerians and viewers. You see, we have laws. We have laws that ordinarily we should be proud of. You know, they were well drafted. They were well couched. The intendments are okay. The audience are fine. But beautiful as it is, the practice, the practicality of it by the umpires is the major problem that we have. We have, in the recent time, been made rubbish with our laws based on the experiences that we have had in election processes in other countries. Only recently, few weeks ago or days ago, Ghana did election. So what kind of electoral act has Ghana that is more superior, than us? Who are the intellectuals that drafted the electoral laws in Ghana? Are they better? Are they better brains in Ghana than Nigeria? Such that our electoral act is inferior, unable to achieve the desired result as we had it in Ghana. Ditto to some other countries, South Africa, Mozambique. They did elections recently, and we could see how transparent and easy it was to implement the electoral, laws. So, what kind of laws do we have in Nigeria? Are they inferior one? The ones drafted by illiterates? I disagree. They are good laws. They are superb. But the problem is the implementation of those laws. I give you an example.
Okay.
In the 2022 electoral amendment. Okay.
No, I would like you to finish.
Amendment. Okay. Now, in the 2022 electoral amendment, few things were introduced, into the system. We had they tidy up the issue of the beavers for accreditation, and also they introduced the transmission of results through an electronic means into the IREF, and the former commissioner from Akwa Ibom, amongst others, did a lot of work to educate Nigerians on the effectiveness and the benefits of the beavers and the IREF. Now, what happened? On the election day, and of course an election that I participated, everything to a large extent went well. If it did not go down well, I will not lie, people like me will not have been elected, into the National Assembly. The simple reason for that is that the results reflected in the IREF, the uploading for House of Representatives, Senate, and to some extent the presidential election actually went to the IRF. But at one point, according to INEC, there were glitches. And as such, we could not get complete result, for the presidential election. And that was what actually got Nigerians, angry and not too happy, and rubbish all the good works that INEC has done thus far, to that point. How it was possible that the INEC IREV had worked for the presidential election, today we'll be celebrating, we would have been celebrating then the way Ghanaians and us, we are celebrating the Ghanaian, election. So we must do well, in improving the electoral, laws, to see how we can check all these shortcomings, especially the one that has to do with human intervention.
Now, that is
when
exactly,
you draft laws, you draft laws for good people to implement, to operate.
Now, that is exactly where I want to come in. You said we must do well to ensure that these laws, are protected and, of course, implemented, especially when it comes to human intervention. And that brings me to some of the things you've said. You said that the laws, the reforms are great, but implementation and practicality seems to be the issue. And that brings me to that caveat which you raised, human intervention. In electoral processes like this, the biggest, will I call it recipients, or the biggest participants are politicians, and to a very large extent, their intervention. You are a politician. What are you suggesting or recommending that politicians like maybe yourselves don't get to influence the system on election days?
I don't think the problem is about politicians trying to influence, the election. Every criminal, wants to do something against, the law. It is the law that is drafted, put in place in such a way to prevent the criminal from taking advantage, from it. All politicians want to win elections. Of course, if you go for an election, it's all about you want to win. And many would think of doing anything to win an election. But the law is put in place to provide security against those who want to win, through the back door. So I'm more concerned about the law. It's not about the politician. If we have good laws operated perfectly or near perfect by the operators, then I don't see any reason how politicians will be coming to want to manipulate the process. If you win the election, fine for you. If you don't win the election, you go home and you congratulate your opponents.
All right, I'm still going to take you on that, Honorable Ben. But right now, I understand that we have a breaking news. Well, we understand that right now what is breaking, particularly in the U.S., is there's been reports of shooting at a school in the United States of America. We are live now in Madison, that's Wisconsin, where multiple people are reported to have been injured during the shooting, according to Wisconsin law enforcement official. Now, according to Madison Police Department, in a Facebook post, investigation into the shooting is active and ongoing as police have asked people to avoid that area as roads will be blocked. Well, of course, that was a breaking story there from the United States. Let's get back to the conversation I still have with me. Honorable Ben Etanabene is a member of the House of Representatives. He joins me virtually. Honorable Ben, you said that you are more focused on the laws and its enforcement, serving as a deterrent and not on the influence of politicians. But in reality, you also said that these laws are great and that implementation and practicality is the problem. And we know that laws don't exist in isolation. It takes human beings to bring them to life, to breathe life into them. And in reality, like what we've seen in the past, in previous elections, we cannot but remove or isolate the influence of politicians in the electoral process. So I still put that same question to you. What do you think practically can be done to serve as deterrent such that politicians don't influence electoral processes?
Okay. Thank you very much. See, we must have umpires that are truly independent. Not umpires that are perceived to be appointed by the same politicians who want to win at all costs. You will not get good results. The ruling party just lost in Ghana. Of course, the little lady, who supervised that election, showed courage, showed, great sense of judgment in the execution of the assignment that has been, put on her shoulders. When you are an umpire to an election, especially as INEC electoral process, look, you are more important than the president. Whatever you do affects the nation more than the action of who you want to prefer, to come through the back door. Because if your action is not real, if it is not sincere, if it is laced with bias, you have just opened the door to rogues, criminals, to poor people, into governance. But if you follow the process and allow citizens, you see, many of us forget the role of citizens. See, citizens, if you give them the freedom, to really elect, they don't like electing bad people into governance. It is when they know that the bad people are so connected, the poor-minded people are so connected, and that there's nothing the citizens can do to change the election, then they just follow them, let it just be. You just collect the little money you want to collect from their hand, and say, in fact, if you corner those citizens behind and ask them, why are they doing like that? They say, what will it change? What will it change? They will still get by anyway. But if the election process is supervised by the umpires who are neutral to the core, I tell you, only the people wanted by the citizens will find their road and their way into governance. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
Till today, I have great respect. I have great respect for the INEC chairman. I have no doubt about it. He's a very, very intelligent man and has good, it's a first class,
Honorable Ben, are you there?
first class,
We, of course, are
yes.
having
Can you hear me?
We are having a bit of connectivity issues with Honorable Ben Etanabene. Of course, we'll get back to him. But let's also just emphasize this breaking news that we just have right now, that there has been reports of shooting at a school in the United States of America. We are live now in Madison, Wisconsin, where multiple persons are reported to have been injured during the shooting, according to the Wisconsin law enforcement officials. Also, according to Madison Police Department, in a Facebook post, investigation into the shooting is active and ongoing, as police have asked persons to avoid the area as roads will be blocked. Of course, News Central will bring you up to speed as this story unfolds. At this point, we'll go on a quick break. When we return, the show continues. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. This, of course, is still Politics HQ on New Central Television, and we are discussing electoral reforms in Nigeria. I have with me my guest, Honorable Ben Etanabene, is a member of the House of Representatives. He joins virtually. Honorable, it's great to have you back. We lost you for a moment. You were trying to establish a point as regards the leadership of INEC. One of the things you did say is that you suggested that the agency is not independent enough. I would like you to elaborate on that. And what do you make of the person of Mahmoud Yakubu and even the leadership of INEC itself? Do you think there should be a major rejig?
Okay, thank you for having me back. Like I said, I have great respect for Professor Mahmoud, and I think he's a man with good character, I have met him to see those virtues in him. But you see, the manner at which they were appointed can only suggest, that in Nigeria, he who pays the piper will dictate the tune. And they have also not demonstrated enough, courage to convince Nigeria that they are independent. I give you an example. In the 2023 election, if you don't provide clarity to problems, people will begin to conjure, maybe that is what happened. The election the results in Lagos was fine. It came out well. The sitting president today is from Lagos. He lost Lagos to the candidate of the Labour Party. Other states were turning out results. Then suddenly, when we know the trend in Port Harcourt, in Rivers, we know the trend in some other states, all of a sudden they said IREF, is not working again. It was at that point the glitches started. When we were inaugurated, my first motion, though was not taken, was to investigate what actually happened, why that IREF had those glitches. See, if INEC had explained to Nigerians that this is exactly what happened, I tell you, a few moments ago, we were having this interview, and NEPA took light. Almighty, this is Nigeria for you. So we had to quickly put on the gen. You didn't know what happened until we explained to you that it was NEPA. So you now understood the situation. You might be thinking it is your equipment here that are not working well, or the one in your studio. So INEC owe a duty to explain to Nigeria exactly what happened, why those results, had problems from getting to the IREF. And that is why people will not believe, that the 2023 election, was transparent. So whoever is the umpire must rise above, the mundane thinking of men, if they say so, to do things, more transparent than Caesar's wife, as they say it. So that brings me, back to what can we do in the Electoral Act to actually check, the reoccurrence of all these kind of problems. Amongst other things, and I must say here that this is a concern for all Nigerians, even those that are not even qualified to even vote. They should be qualified, they should be concerned about how we elect leaders, because the actions of their leaders affects them, even as kids, in primary school, and even toddlers. So I tell you, any solution is fine to making our election process, okay. On my part, I have suggested, that one, we should have all elections done in one day. It will help. All this story of no money in INEC, and of course no money in the country, will be conserving funds, when we do all our elections in the same day. These 3 papers, ballot papers you give to people, you cannot just extend it to 5, So you don't need to carry our election to another week or 2 weeks after, because the implication is that we are repeating a process all over again, more expensive, and you are setting the stage of those who have won in the first one to direct the direction of voting in the second one. Election is not done like that anywhere in this country.
Okay,
elections are done the same day.
Because
Ghana,
we are really pressed for time, if you can hear me, sir.
Do one set
because we are
today
pressed for time.
and do another set tomorrow.
Okay, because we are pressed for time.
Finally,
okay.
I have a bill I have a bill that has gone for second reading on the floor of the House. And that bill is the amendment of the Act to give provision for the registration of special election agent service providers, independent agent service providers, different from the INEC. Now, this group of persons, we could be civil society, religious group, associations, can come together, provide agent services, independent, INEC already have provision for observers that are monitoring election. Now, this one becomes agents for political parties, who will provide agents across the 180-something thousand polling units in Nigeria. Then they will develop their own portal where results from their agents will be sent to their IREF.
I sincerely apologize, but hopefully we'll come back to it. But many thanks for staying with us. This is still Politics HQ on News Central Television. And of course, at this time, we are still discussing Nigeria's electoral reforms. And I still have my guest with me, Honorable Ben Etanabene, is a member of the House of Representatives. Honorable, before we wrap up this interview, let's go, of course, a bit into the Labour Party. Recently, some members of your party defected to the All Progressives Congress, the ruling party. What do you have to say to that? And what exactly is going on within the Labour Party? Is the Labour Party united?
And special election agent service providers. These people will be recognized, these agents will be recognized by law, just as INEC made provision for observers. That is how these bodies will also to act on behalf of political parties. But they will just go a step further to develop an IREF, that they can collate results also. Now, because of the trust deficit in INEC with Nigerians, now these people will help, so that at the end of every election, when INEC IREF is also to having results, these individuals also to, or this group, will also to have their results. But the law is clear. It will be clear. It is not those results that will be used to declare, a winner. It is INEC's own. But should there be discrepancies between INEC IREF and these private agents IREF, the court, and it goes to court, the matter goes to court, the court must accept in evidence, the results of this IREF, of these special agents, to be able to determine, where these problems come from. You see, when we have all these things, there will be a lot of credibility, in the process. I just watched recently one center who did the analysis of results in Edo State. It will help to give credibility to the chairman, of INEC and his crew. Because as it is today, even if you bring Angel Gabriel, Angel Michael, and all the prophets of in those days, you resurrect them, Nigerians will not be still, satisfied, with the performance of those who are saddled with responsibility, to conduct our election. So these and many others we help, to see, that we have credibility, confidence, in the process. And all Nigerians who are eligible to vote, to a large extent, will come out to vote.
Now, on Labour Party, some of your members that defected to the All Progressives Congress, what's your take? And is the Labour Party united?
It is the porosity. I think it's the porosity of our Electoral Act. It's not about the Labour Party. There's no problem with the Labour Party. There's all those letters they wrote about leadership. The Labour Party does not have leadership crisis. Julius Abure is the chairman of the Labour Party. The court has confirmed that. And we are sailing along. There's unity coming to the Labour Party, So what they said is not correct. Now, the reason why they left, I've said it before, that the way the electoral process, turned out in the Edo election, where the results were allocated, so to say, as ascribed by those who failed, and it was repeated in Ondo, especially where the chairman of the ruling party said that they are going to replicate what happened in Edo, every other places, and it happened like that. So those guys became scared. that perhaps in 2027, that will still be the pattern. So they should just jump to the ruling party, now. That is the real, reason why they left. It's not about, anything in the Labour Party. But again, it is the electoral law, that gave, that kind of fake and faded belief, in the election process. If not, those guys would have trusted themselves. If you have independent candidates today, and the election is, the processes to elect people is okay, many people will opt out to become independent candidate.
All right.
But finally, on this matter, it is a failure of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which stated clearly that if you decamp from your party without any problem of division at the national, you automatically lose your seat. That provision, that act in the Constitution is self-activated. It does not require that Mr. Speaker at any time, will not be the one to determine that provision. Because if it is like that, no speaker will ever declare the provision, the seat of any decampee vacant, because it's a beneficiary, of it. As a matter of fact, I'm even already getting to the point where I need to bring a bill on that matter to expunge that provision that says Mr. Speaker, must be the one to declare. No, that provision is self-activating. The very moment, look, the INEC certificate given to those candidates carries their party name. After decamping, do they carry the same certificate back to INEC to now rewrite again the new party that they have decamped to? No. So we are making a mess, a foolery of the Constitution. And I do not think legislators, should be the ones, to do, that kind of a celebration that I see people doing. In Rivers, the 27 guys just realized that provision is self-activating. That is why they quickly went back to say they did not decamp. So why should we be allowing this thing to happen? It might be good today, we might be celebrating it today, but come many years later, when another party comes, we will regret the action we are taking.
All right, Honorable Ben, thank you so much for your time on the program. We deeply appreciate your insight. Thank you once again, Honorable Ben Etanabene, member representing Okpe, Sapele and Uvwie Federal Constituency, House of Representatives. Once again, thank you for your time on Politics HQ.